Good morning, James Moore. Thank you so very much for joining me on my So Zoom In, a YouTube channel I started because of this global pandemic that has everyone kind of looking inward. So thank you very much for joining me. I am a fan of yours. First of all, I have to ask, just to get it out of the way, pancakes.
Pancakes.
What is with the pancakes? This is like,
you know, I'll be honest with you. It's something that started. How do I put this? So literally the way the whole thing got started was that it was during the time when I was very very ill, and hospitalized for a while, and I remember one day just like I wanted pancakes. I just just like out of the blue, just like I would really appreciate it if someone brought me some pancakes. And sure enough, a couple of days later, someone visited me in the hospital and brought me pancakes.
nice.
And it snowballed from there. And it was just like every day was just like it became my thing. It became my mantra. I became the grand ambassador of all things pancakes. And so I love them for truly, and it's for me, pancakes represents the perfect peaceful moment, because I cannot, in my entire life, think of a time when I had pancakes and I was not happy. So pancakes are happiness.
Okay, then we need lots of pancakes
We need
because
lots of pancakes.
yeah,
Yes.
lots of pancakes. All right, well, cool. That's a cool story. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, so fires. You're here in California,
Yes. Yes.
and California again seems to be having a lot of fires. Are you safe?
Yeah.
Are you in a safe
Yes.
area? Or?
Fortunately, thank you for asking. Both my wife and I are safe. We live in Sherman Oaks here in the
Mhm.
valley. So while there are fires, uh, some away from us, probably the closest would be in the Santa Clarita area.
Mhm.
The stuff that's been going on in Box Canyon, but we're safe. We're good.
Oh, good. Okay.
We've got our go kit in case we need to bug out. But yeah,
Mhm.
we're doing just fine.
Well,
And I hope
you,
you are too.
yeah, trying to stay inside because of the air quality, but it seems like every summer now we're hit with this, but
Yeah,
we've been hit with a lot. But you are a writer,
I am.
you and I love that. And you just did a film not too long ago in the death room,
Yep.
right? And that's been getting quite a bit of success
Yeah,
recently, right?
yes, we've been extraordinarily fortunate to have been selected for a number of film festivals, both nationally and internationally. I think we just got selected for one in, I want to say Australia. Yes, an Australian
Okay.
film festival. We've been selected for one for sure. I know in Canada, a couple in the UK. So yeah, it's a we're very proud of the project. A lot of love, a lot of hard work went into it. My producing partners, Nicole Jones Dion, Suzette Martel, Jane Hare, um, oh gosh, now I'm blanking, Lennox Knight, um, and oh gosh, I'm blanking on everyone else that's in the project, and so I forgive me for the rest of the team if I forget everybody's name so early in the morning. Yeah, but it's an incredible bunch of people. Um, Nicole Jones Dion wrote and directed it. She did an amazing job, and it looks beautiful. The cinematography on it is wonderful. Some very very compelling performances that are just phenomenal, phenomenal.
Now, what made you decide to become a producer on this project? What kind of projects inspire you to give up your time and your energy, well, to invest your time and energy into something
Right.
like that?
So Nicole Jones Dion and I have worked together on a number of projects previously, where we've written and produced together. Um, and this one was something that she really felt passionate about, that she wanted to do. And it was right around the time when I had decided also to launch my own production company. And so, she approached me about, joining the project, and said, let's go ahead and co-produce this thing as, under both of our umbrellas. So In the Death Room is a co-production between Praxis Scope Pictures, which is Nicole's company, and Hammerjaxx Films, which is my company. So I was very, very honored to be a part of that. I've always been a fan of all things mystery and thriller, and just really dark, compelling stories. And this is definitely one that we certainly found a way to retell a Stephen King story in a way that I thought was very, very moving, very, very just like grabs you by the throat, as it were, and pulls you right into the story. So, yeah, I am drawn to things like that for some ungodly reason. but trust me, meet me in public, people. I'm just the happiest guy you'd ever meet.
You are. You really are. So what are you working on right now?
So right now, I have a couple of pilots that I'm getting shopped around. One is a medical drama called Urgent Care, about a cardiovascular surgeon who walks away from her career after her niece is killed, to open an urgent care in a crime-ridden area of Cleveland. The other is Fury, is a crime thriller about a disgraced police detective who discovers that the very crime family she believes killed her boyfriend, she's actually the illegitimate daughter of the head of the family.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
So,
Yeah. So when you pitch pilots like that, is that something that you always want to keep part of your production company or keep it separate?
A little of both, actually. I mean, one of the things that I've discovered within the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years is that in terms of my brand, the stories themselves can be, in various different genres, but as long as they encompass the brand that I'm looking for, in terms of the theme, I think that crosses many, many different platforms. I do prefer, as just, because it's my wheelhouse, to do the thriller, the dark stuff, the crime stuff for sure. But that doesn't mean that I'm not interested in doing something a little more light or funny or even action related. So yeah, there's even a feature that I'm working on right now that is a sci-fi action comedy.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's very cool, and the pitch for it is very simple. It is Star Trek meets Sanford and Son. It gets a laugh.
I love it.
So yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm working on. Once these other projects find a good home, then I'm really excited to go back. Just as something fun to do,
Right.
So very excited about it.
Well, yeah, good thing for like all these new streaming platforms, because a lot of young kids would be like, "What's Sanford and Son?" And you'd be like, "Well, go watch it on TV. You'll find it somewhere."
Exactly, and it's funny because they have such a great advantage that we didn't have growing up, in that they can just put on Netflix or Hulu or something, and they can go watch a show that we would have to, like, okay, I have to make time to go watch this show, because you don't know if if it were ever going to air again. And I think I came around just as reruns were becoming a thing at the time. So
Right.
you hoped you could catch it again if you didn't. Now they're just like, I'm just going to binge watch an entire season. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, binge watching is kind of fun though. To make
It's
time.
addictive. It's addictive.
And I'm sure those are the type of series you're writing, those binge-worthy type shows that people just like get hooked in. I love it.
One of my favorite shows is Law and Order. And like, even before binge watching was a thing, they would show, I can't remember what network it was, would show literally 24-hour marathons, of Law and Order. And I was just like, okay. And what was funny about it is, like, let's say you spend an entire day watching it and you fell asleep. It's not a problem, because by the time you woke up, that same episode is starting back up over again. And it's like, okay, I'm good.
Oh, good. It's all good.
I love it. I love it.
So during this pandemic, how do you feel it has changed you as a writer?
Ooh, I would love to be one of those people that says, no, I'm still doing good, but in all honesty, it has certainly changed my perspective, not only on the world at large, but our responsibility in it. I can honestly say this, Sophia. I have never in my life felt more um, responsible that to actually be able to create material that people can enjoy and escape from, sometimes the harsh realities of life. I've never felt more compelled that I have a responsibility and a duty to get my work out there as quickly as possible, and also to the best of my ability, because I'm sure just like you have, like the rest of us have, watching, the way that this whole thing has happened just day in and day out. And I think at the very beginning, a lot of us believed that it was something that would probably just go away, in a couple of weeks or a month, maybe. I'm thinking, we got to be on lockdown for a couple of weeks and no big deal. We'll survive. There's plenty of, we're well supplied and everything. But when it really started moving into, several months and, some of the modern conveniences, a lot of stuff that we take for granted had been shut down. Like you couldn't, I remember at one point we had a curfew where no one was allowed out after, I think it was 9 or 10 o'clock. And, it just changes your mindset about, some of the simple things that you do. And, I've had a number of friends who have unfortunately contracted the virus. Some have overcome it, and I'm thankful for that. Others are still struggling, and it really gives you an opportunity to not really. I guess I say the biggest thing would be it's made me less selfish, and be more cognizant of the fact that while I have time to do something and do something positive, I owe it to the world to be able to do so, because I'm still okay. My wife and I, and she's in the medical field. My wife and I have not had any issues thus far, even though I'm, allegedly in the target group, being a big man and, also having asthma, I have to be very careful about things. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to go to the gym, I want to do stuff. But I'm the first guy that puts on my mask. I believe in, every time that I do have to go out for necessities, I don't want to be responsible for causing anyone else any sort of condition, even though I don't have anything, just on the off chance that would be possible. I'm taking ownership of myself and what I need to do to be a good person overall.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, taking accountability. I think that's kind of key for life in general, when people
It
can
is.
just take accountability for their life and not keep placing blame or putting it on someone else, and
Right,
and just
exactly.
own up. Um, I think that's really interesting, especially right now, because it just feels like everything's kind of being thrown at each other,
Right.
and I wish I could just say, okay, everyone, stop, just
Yeah.
stop. It's all, just take a deep breath. It's all
Right.
good. You
Let's all have
know,
pancakes. That's what I said. Let's
right?
all
Pancakes. Yeah,
have
let's,
pancakes. Let's just calm down and have some
yeah, have some
pancakes.
pancakes, and let's communicate, and let's not place blame, let's not criticize, and say, hey, it's like we're one, really. And
Right.
I think that's one great thing about being a writer, is you can really put stuff like that into story, using circumstances and using examples, even though if it's like a crime thriller and people get like
Mhm.
slashed or stuff. But I mean, I was watching Shawshank Redemption the other night,
Ooh, good to see.
a favorite Stephen King movie, and there were just so many subtle little messages in it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and to me that's great storytelling, because you could watch it over and over and over again. And I know you're that kind of writer,
Thank
that
you.
you could just read the story over and over and over again and keep finding nuances, and and I love that. And I think that's the type of storytelling that, you know, the people need to see, or well, they don't need to see anything, but you know.
But I would agree. They do need to see it. And I think one of the things that, you know, because you and I both, you know, having, you know, gone through screenwriting, it's very, very, you come to this realization as a screenwriter that you've got a lot of power in words, and that, you know, it isn't so much in the stuff that's obvious or on the nose. It is in the subtleties. It is in the details, and certainly within the subtext where you really are able to reach and touch people across, you know, every line, racial, political, religious. It doesn't matter. There's a common theme, you know, and a common understanding that touches the heart of everyone. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about being a screenwriter, is that we have an opportunity with every story that we tell to say something that, you know, two people who don't agree with each other on, you know, on a broad spectrum of things will find a common ground in our stories, and something that might actually bring them closer together. So I think you hit it on the head. It's, you know, it's all about, you know, communication, and, you know, and having a wanting to have a better understanding of one another. You know, you do need to be open to that, because a lot of times, a lot of stuff, you know, especially with, you know, with the pandemic, there's so much misinformation that's being handed down left and right. It's hard for people when something is presented to them that may indeed be the truth to really accept it, because there's just so much out there. And so I think we as screenwriters have not only a duty, I would say, but, you know, it's important in terms of our own accountability to be able to speak the truth, not a truth, but the truth.
I agree. That's awesome. But the question is, how do you share that? Now, you work with writers, right? Or you help writers, right?
Yeah.
That's something. I mean, so when you're working with writers, how do you help them? I mean, do you just, how do I want to say this? Is it mostly just focusing on the type of story they want to tell, or structure, or, you know, finding that freedom to just write and then just ease your way in, or what
wow,
exactly?
That's a big question.
It's a process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know what? It's so big. So part of it.
Sorry.
Part of it. No. It's an incredibly great question. It is about the process, you know, and this was something that I learned for myself early on, that, you know, part of the reason when I was struggling was that I was refusing to surrender to the process. You know, I was refusing to just, you know, put aside whatever preconceived notions that I had, or any ideas that I had, and just, you know, just go with the process. And there is a certain kind of freedom in that allows you to better absorb the stuff that you need to know, like the structure, and being able to, you know, to accurately put out something that, as we've been taught, to be highly marketable, to help you be successful and be an asset in the industry. But I think the one thing that you cannot do, and I tell this to all the writers who, you know, come to me for advice, the one thing that you cannot do is shortchange yourself in terms of finding your voice. And that just requires time. And you have to read, you have to write, and, you know, it's not going to happen in 3 months or 6 months. Sometimes you got to write for, you know, a number of years to be able to find what your voice is, because a lot of people want to, you know, they want to follow the trend, right? Or what they believe is the trend. So, for example, a lot of people are thinking, oh, I need to write a COVID story, you know, right now, you know, because when the industry comes back, you know, they're going to want COVID stories and this and that and everything else. And actually, no, people are going to want to see something probably a bit more lighthearted, you know, definitely something funny, something uplifting, you know, because we've been in this thing now for the better part of 6 months. And so it's like when you decide that you want to be a screenwriter, I always tell people to ask themselves a couple of questions. Is this something that you're willing to give the next 10 years of your life to, whether you make a dime or not? And if not, then probably you might want to think about doing something else, because there is no guarantee that that you'll be able to have that that life that you want, if you're not willing to put your heart and soul into it. The other question is, knowing, not necessarily knowing specifically, like I want to write thrillers or I want to write comedy, but what about writing itself moves you? What makes you, do you get up in the morning and, the first thing you do, like I do, grab a cup of coffee, sit in front of the computer and just, let's see what words come out today. Because that's important. And I think the last thing that is probably most important, are you willing to fall in love with the process? Because a lot of people, I think where most writers, new writers, struggle is, taking the time that's like, I want to write about dolphins. Okay, are you willing to spend the next 3 or 4 months learning everything that you can about dolphins? Not just, something you saw on, on a Baywatch, episode or whatnot, and think that it would be really cool. Actually, being an authority when you're speaking to people and you're pitching your scripts and whatnot on this subject. We all have heard that phrase, told to a lot of screenwriters, write what you know. And for a lot of people, they think that that's code for, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, so no, you shouldn't be writing those shows, and we don't respect you because you don't have the knowledge base per se. But that doesn't mean that you can't go out and get it. So if I wanted to study, if I wanted my hero for my next project to be Greek, come from the Greek Isles, and she's here from America, and she's a private eye, and she speaks 7 different languages. I mean, there's a good deal of studying that I'm going to do to make that character authentic. I'm not going to rely simply on conventional stereotypes, right, just to try and sell a project. And I think that's what it means by putting your heart and soul into the project, because you spent the time to learn and to study and to understand and research, and just go through the process of absorbing all of this information and knowledge, so that you can put it all into a character that's believable, credible, and literally comes alive on the page.
It does take time and effort, but like you said, if you love it, it doesn't feel like effort.
It doesn't, really, right? It doesn't. And I think that was the difference for me at the beginning. It was like, and not to throw anybody under the bus, because I did the same thing too, but like in the beginning, it was just so hard, just like, oh my God, I gotta sit here. Yeah. But again, once I figured out how to surrender to it, it's just like, I actually look forward to it now. It's just like, I'm working on a new project about, it's going to be an action feature about firefighters, especially, just inspired by the guys that we see here every year in Southern California who fight these fires. And, and I'm, I got a couple of interviews scheduled with some firefighters, once they're done, and God bless them for the work that they do. But, you have to really kind of do a deep dive into whatever the subject matter is. And you gotta be not necessarily in love with it, but you have to love the process, because at the end of it, you find yourself armed with enough knowledge to make whatever character you create credible. And that's the key.
Well, I know I've heard people say, well, I'm not going to write a script on spec. They need to pay me for my ideas or my time. Right? I start laughing too. But it seems to me like everything now is on spec, because everyone's taking a risk. Everyone's, nothing's a guarantee. I mean, unless you're working for Paramount or Warner Brothers.
Right. And even then you should still be writing on spec. I've
heard that from a few people.
I laugh again, because it's part of what tells you who's really got the heart for this, in my opinion, that,
Right.
for whatever that's worth. But here's the thing about writing specs. If you're actually writing a spec, what are you doing? You're writing, which is your job. And you would think that you'd want to even do your job, even though you're not getting paid for it, in hopes that when your time comes, you'll know what to do. I think the worst thing that could happen to a screenwriter who doesn't like to do specs is that someone finally recognizes your work. They finally believe in what you can do. And they say, we're going to put you in a writer's room with all of these seasoned writers who are used to just like pounding out, scripts in, 7 to 10 days, just like knocking out a full script. And you're struggling. And now that you're in the deep end where everyone wants to be, you can't even keep up because you didn't want to write specs. You didn't want to constantly beat up on your craft. I mean, and really, if you think about it, it's like any other profession. If you wanted to be a dancer, you're spending hours, months, years learning your craft. People like, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who would spend hours, practicing a single shot, just to make sure that they got it right. And the example is that again, if you are putting in the time, if you're doing that work, if you're putting that in, you have no choice but to eventually be successful. So the idea that you shouldn't be writing specs, I think, does a disservice to people who want to call themselves screenwriters, because it's about the commitment, not only to the craft, but to yourself. How bad do you really want this? And yeah, you should be doing at least 3 to 4 specs a year. You should challenge yourself every now and then. Can I write a script in 3 weeks? Can I write a feature in 21 days? And that's not to say it's not about whether or not you do or you don't. It's about putting in the time and the effort to actually try and make that work. And I'm sure you've had this breakthrough yourself as well. You get to a point where after you've been writing so much for a number of years, stuff just starts to come to you, and it's almost on instinct. You're running on an autopilot, and the things that you would normally a few years ago would have to go back and really do a deep, hard, rewrite on. It's not that hard, so some of your rewrites might be a lot lighter, a lot simpler. And that's because the clarity that you have intrinsically in you is just, it's there now. You've earned it. You've broken through that wall that that keeps you from your really deep imagination, and you're doing some incredible stuff. But that doesn't happen if you're not sitting in the chair just pounding stuff out.
Right, daily if you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now I wanted to ask you, going back, people have asked me, what does your voice mean when you're developing your voice? And, to non-writers, and I know, we have a wheelhouse, but when someone says, what exactly is your voice? Or how do I find my voice? Or how do I even know what my voice is? Because I heard someone say, oh, well, I like to write all different kinds of stories. I never stick with just one genre. But I'm thinking, well, you can still have your same voice in each one. Because, well, what does that mean? I was like, what do you mean? I'm a writer. And I'm like, okay. So how would you explain what a voice is?
So, and I think having your own voice is very important, because, and I completely agree with you, regardless of the genre, if your voice is present, people will know that it's you. And so everyone knows the difference between a John Hughes film from a Martin Scorsese film. And so, like, if you were to put a couple of scenes from both films up at the same time, you could tell there's two different voices, in these projects. Shonda Rhimes has her own voice. I mean, it's different from Grey's Anatomy to Scandal to How to Get Away with Murder, but but clearly you see it's Shonda. Aaron Sorkin, wow, he has his own voice. It's your own distinctive way of storytelling that lets the reader know that this is someone that I trust, and I'm willing to suspend my belief to go on whatever ride you take me on. It's the same thing like if, you pick up a thriller, thriller mystery book. Rip the title and, the cover page and everything off. Can you tell just by reading it that it's a Stephen King book? Probably.
Right.
There's going to be certain cues, certain things that writer does that are, that have become intrinsic and natural in their style of writing that lets you know, oh yeah, this is a Stephen King book. And I think finding your voice is very, very important because it helps the market understand exactly who you are. So for example, the two pilots that I've been shopping right now, the overall branding in my own personal voice comes down to a single statement, which is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And simply put, that's just about a lot of characters who believe they're doing the right thing or, want to do something really good. And it goes completely bananas. And now they have to work twice as hard to undo what they've done and do what they originally had intended to do with as little pain as possible, but they're probably going to go through a lot of pain doing it. And this is something that we've actually seen repeated in a lot of successful television shows. Breaking Bad is a perfect example. Walter White, was just a guy trying to take care of his family and turned into a meth dealer. But as we follow his story, we see that for all of Walter White's good intentions, he was led down the road to hell. An even better example, Sons of Anarchy. Jax Teller was this tragic figure trying to do the right thing, trying to do the right thing for his club and for his sons and for his family. And yet every time, it blew up in his face. And so, clearly, for all of his good intentions, he created a bloody trail. And, and it's a tragic and compelling story, but it's stuff that we're drawn to. Right. Because it happens a lot, in real life. So, Kurt Sutter has his own voice. I think it's probably the best thing any writer can do is to take the time, trust your instincts, and, learn as much as possible to define what your voice is, because clearly that's the most impressive thing about you in the marketplace.
And the marketplace is constantly changing. So if you can know yourself as a writer, as a person,
absolutely,
that's a huge advantage. Huge advantage. So, okay, so going back to the pandemic, we don't know how long this is going to last. Movie theaters are still closed. I hear rumors that they're supposed to open next weekend. Fingers crossed, but who knows? As a filmmaker, how do you see this changing for you to make, to continue to produce and to continue, to get the written word out there to, have it come to life? Do you see that you'll adapt to these new rules and regulations? Are you going to just go for it anyway, using safety precautions, or how do you see it happening?
Well, I think by and large, the industry as we knew it is forever changed. There are just some things that we're going to be doing going forward that there's no going back to. And I think overall, a lot of things are for the better. I'm all about having a safe set. I'm also myself a C19CO, certified COVID-19 compliance officer for movie sets, TV shows, music videos, and commercials. So I'm a firm believer in making sure that everyone has a safe an experience and in doing the work that we love as possible. In terms of how it's going to affect me as a producer, certainly it changes a lot of what we might have been thinking about doing, and going throughout the rest of this year and certainly looking forward. But I think the biggest thing is that it makes us all more cognizant of not only our surroundings, but of one another. It requires us to have a certain sense of accountability, once again, that I think was needed anyway. Right before this happened, I'm sure you remember, there have been a couple of instances where there were some tragedies that have happened on film sets simply because, proper safe protocols were not being followed. And these were lives that were actually lost that could have been, these are all preventable things. And so I think looking ahead, we want to make sure that we're still telling great stories. At the end of the day, that's what we all want. We all want to still tell great stories. But I think for me personally, again, as a screenwriter, I'm looking more toward back to television and streaming, because I think that those are still going to be the major pipelines, even for films, because a lot of stuff is they've got new releases on Amazon and things like that. But I think film, going out to see a movie is not going to go away. And I think the biggest the biggest advantage that we have right now is something that we used to do that's coming back, which is drive-in theaters. And so you could still go out to see a movie. And for a lot of people, this is, for people like me, because I'm an older guy, it's, it's like nostalgia. It's kind of fun, because it takes you back to the days when, you go with your parents to a drive-in movie theater, and, you get the popcorn and everything, you sit in the back seat, and, kids would eventually fall asleep, but, you have an enjoyable family time. And it was definitely a family thing as well.
Right.
And so I think, these places that are popping up now with, drive-in movie theaters where, you can bring your own concessions and whatnot. And, you don't even need like an external speaker, you just tune it in on your radio. I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think that there will probably be more drive-ins popping up. And so it will, I think the movie industry itself will have to make an adjustment. Theaters, indoor theaters, it's such a hard call. It's, because we don't want to do what California experienced already, where, like down in the OC, they opened up a little too soon, and, the numbers started to spike again. We don't want to see something like that happen again because a bunch of people were in a theater, and someone didn't, wasn't, accountable for themselves. But I think in terms of this drive-in thing, I think that's really, really something. And, we've got people who are, screening movies, in their backyards and things like that. So
Right.
I love that the problem presents an opportunity, not just a challenge, but an opportunity for us who are already creative to be even more so. And so I'm positively looking ahead toward still, trying to continue to make stuff that people are going to enjoy. And, we'll certainly do what we can and stay within all the safety protocols. But I want to do what I feel I was born to do. I want to create great content that people are going to talk about and enjoy and share and be scared or laugh, or, whatever the case may be. And know that for a while, it's just like, we do what movies were intended to do. It's a beautiful, positive escape from whatever it is that you got to deal in your regular everyday life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that. Okay, so when you said you were certified as for COVID compliance, what exactly does that mean?
So basically, what what the industry is basically agreed that they have to do now is that every set has to follow a certain set of protocols. In order to make sure that those protocols are followed, every film set, TV, movie, commercials even, must have what's known as a COVID compliance officer. This is basically a unique role of someone who is there on set to make sure that everyone, cast and crew, is safely following and maintaining all of the safety protocols set by the CDC and by the industry itself. So my job would be just to make sure that anyone who comes to set, that they don't have a fever. There's certain paperwork that they have to fill out to make sure the set itself is clearly identifiable and marked. So, everyone's maintaining safe distance, that there are supplies, masks, shields, gloves, whatever is needed for that shoot. And, to make sure that everyone is adhering to all of the safety regulations so that we can shoot safely. And as well, if there's any problems that arise, to be able to identify them quickly and take the appropriate necessary steps to make sure that the remainder of the cast and crew is protected and safe.
I love that. But what about for independent filmmakers? Because it sounds like it could be like an extra huge chunk of change in the budget.
It is definitely that in some regards. However, as I tell people, as I've explained as well to a number of cases, that it really depends upon the individual project. It is not, and for anyone that's out there thinking that being a compliance officer is the next get-rich-quick scheme. No. I'm so sorry to burst that bubble. Right. Because again, at some point we are going to have a vaccine or a cure, and and as we move further away from where we are right now, those we're able to ease a lot of those restrictions, and if indeed there is a vaccine that everyone can get that's safe and effective, then there'll be no need for this anymore. Or at least it'll be something that and it'll be a change as we evolve. But I'm doing I'm a compliance officer for a shoot that's I'm doing next Friday. It's a one-day shoot. It's very, very small cast and crew, and and these are people that I know and care about. So I'm like, whatever little bit that you throw my way, I'm fine with. And the biggest thing is that it keeps production moving.
Right.
If there's a way for people to shoot safely, then let's do it, and let me do what I can to help out to make sure that happens. I have a short film of my own that I've written that I want to direct. Very small cast and crew. Four cast, probably another 4 people crew wise. So we're talking about 10 people total in an area that we can safely maintain. We can make sure we can have all the pre-testing done so people can get tested 48 hours before. You can do that now, and have safe, reliable testing, and know that before you get started on shooting, that everybody's good to go, and and we're all safe and maintaining proper protocols, doing everything that we can be to stay safe. I mean, and most of it is a lot of common sense stuff, but to actually have someone there that is their sole job really takes the stress off of everyone else working, because that person's role is very specified to just making sure that everyone on set is safe.
Right. I love that. Well, do you find, because of these new regulations, that script writing has to be more contained to fit those lines? I mean, as a writer, do you feel more constricted because of it, or do you still write the story you want to tell?
I think the biggest thing that people are really looking at in terms of, wow, how are we going to, or what should we probably not be doing a whole lot of? And I would say that's just love scenes. So it's just like, you get 2 actors together, now we have to kiss, and they're just like,
no. Ain't happening.
Yeah, just like, I mean, he's Brad Pitt, but how do I know Brad Pitt is there? So it's it's one of those things where, again, like every other level of this industry, you make whatever adjustments are necessary.
Right.
In the short that I want to do, there's no kissing, but there's a moment where 3 people wrestle with a gun, and so they're in very close proximity to each other, and I'm talking to a stunt coordinator, and we're looking to how what that would look like, how that would work, how can we get exactly the shots that we want, and as few takes as possible, because again just the fact that constantly being in contact could cause more exposure. But again, if all of the initial safety protocols are in place, and everyone is adhering to them, and we can do everything safely. And because like I'm checking temperatures like every other take. It's just like, let me check your temperature. Let me walking around with my little gun, like, hey, come here, let me check your temperature. I think there's a way to do it, and again, it goes back to creative people being creative with the situation that's at hand. Um, there are ways to protect yourself on set. Um, and certainly, as a screenwriter and a producer, if it isn't going to work one way, let's come up with some ideas. Let's look at different ways to, to still get what we want at the end of the day, but do it safely so that, no one feels encumbered upon or pressured into doing anything that they want to do. And we all get what we want at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't, and especially for indie stuff, because they don't have the big studio bucks, or you gotta do all the legwork and everything on your own. But I think that it still can be done safely and managed effectively.
Oh, anything is possible. It's just people want to work, so I'm sure they would stick with that. So anything's possible, and I'm just so proud of you because you put yourself in it and you just keep going and keep doing it. And you have that passion and soul to just do it. So if anyone was to ask you why do you want to do it, what would you say?
Oh gosh, probably. And this goes back to when I came up with the pancake thing. I got an infection in my hip and had to have it completely removed. And in doing so, once I had it removed, there was nothing there for like 4 months. So literally, yeah,
Wow.
It was, it's just like you have, no bone, no nothing there. And I spent a lot of time in a nursing home. So when you're a very active individual and suddenly, things force you to not be active, it could mess with your head. It could, it will certainly change you. But, again, one of the things that, coming out of all of that I learned to appreciate is that, we spend as people, especially here in this country, we spend a lot of times saying, oh, I'm having a bad day. And, I'm just, things just aren't going my way. I'm just feeling down and whatnot. And yet, if we were to get on someplace like Facebook, I guarantee you could find 100 people who have it 100 times worse than you do. And so it's in those moments of just like, as bad as it might seem here to me, it's probably worse for someone else. So instead of speaking to my pains and my hurts and my aches and pains and whatnot, why not be a voice of something better? If for no other reason, just to say, you know what, I'm going to talk myself out of this bad mood. I'm going to talk about feeling good. I'm going to talk about feeling great. I'm going to talk about other people who should feel great and hopefully inspire and uplift them. And as I do it, the more often I do it, and every day that I do it, I'm practicing being epic. And that has been my mantra now for a number of years. It's a way of life, because if you there's an old saying that says, as you think, so you are. Yeah. And if you wake up every day thinking about the negative and, and about how bad the world is and, worrying about stuff, it will pull you down. It will drain you. One of my best friends in life, and we used to do this when we were younger and we were kids, we would, come to one another and say we having a bad day or whatnot, what was going down, or we were worried about something. The first question we would ask each other is, does that put any money in your pocket? Is it bringing you closer to that penthouse that you've always dreamed of? Is it buying you that new car? Then what the heck are you doing? And, it's funny, but it's also that mental realization that I can snap myself out of this. I don't need a pill or a drug or, or anything. I can just go, I'm just going to change my mind. And really, It's that simple, but we've been conditioned to believe that it's not. And so when you find yourself in a position, whether it's life or people in your life, which is probably more true than not, who are just like constantly trying to knock you down, or tell you that, you're not good enough, or you're not qualified, or you're not worthy. um I remember one time, I used to be a mobile disc jockey back in Columbus, Ohio. Had my own company, ran several systems, and we did shows probably all over the East Coast and in the Midwest. And I remember someone came to me one day and asked me, "What do you do for a living?" And I remember saying, "I'm a DJ." And their response was, "No, what's your real job?" And I go, "Well, that is my real job." And he responded, "Well, you can't make a whole lot of money doing that." And I said, "Actually, I made $5,000 last weekend." And his jaw dropped. And so it's again, people will have their perceptions about who you are, and what it is that you can do. And I know, as a screenwriter, we still get it. It's just like, "You're a screenwriter?" It's just like, really, why that? Why? Because I can. And probably the worst thing that, and I'm sure you've had this happen to you too. I don't know why, but it's still the one thing that grates on my nerves. People will come up to me and goes, "James, I got a great idea for a screenplay that you should write." Never say that. Don't you ever say that to a screen. Don't let the words fall out your mouth. Ooh. I'm like, wait. So my life is so horrible that I cannot come up with an idea on my own, that God sent you personally to bring me this idea that I could write. No. And so, you've heard me say this a lot, own your given greatness. And I believe that each and every one of us has our own given greatness, that it's just something that we just came with. And it's something that we're meant to grow and nurture like a flower, and build up in such a way that it not only helps you, but helps everyone around you. And that at the end of the day is part of the reason why, I don't quit. I will fall, sure, absolutely. I'm human like everybody else. There will be days when, pandemic, tragedies, fires, earthquakes, whatever the case may be. Sure, I'll get knocked down, but I get up again. And I keep getting up. And I love the fact that it's such a common thing among all of us, that, if you were to tell someone, "Hey, don't feel sad, don't, it's going to get better." And they go, "What do you know, Sophia? What do you know?" But you do know, because you've been there. And if they're paying attention, they know that too. And a lot of times when people are, who try, the naysayers especially, who try and kick you for what you do, or, belittle your efforts, excuse me, it's because they're still afraid. And they haven't learned how to take that leap of faith yet. And this is one thing I do applaud about every screenwriter that I know, yourself included. There is a certain bravery. I'll even go one further. There's a certain badassness that you have to have as a screenwriter that a lot of people just don't have. And I'm so sorry to break it to the rest of the world. But for the people who think that this is easy, who think that, we're just lying on a beach somewhere with our laptops or in coffee shops all day, writing whatnot, gabbing and on Facebook. No, this is a serious effort. And it's also an industry where we face the kind of rejection that breaks people and sends people home crying on buses, not planes, buses, because that's all you can afford, because your parents had to send you the money to come back home. Now, that may seem like hyperbole or an analogy or even a great metaphor, but that's a reality for a lot of people. And for those of us who continue to stick with it and fight through it, and for every rejection, every no that we get, every, yeah, let me check it out, or this would be a great opportunity for you to do for free. And we smile and say, thank you, I'm just going to keep moving down the road. That certain tenacity to keep going through all of that is not built into every human being. And for those of us who do have that, we are truly badass because we keep coming back. No matter what, we keep coming back.
That's what you got to do. You just got to keep on going.
Yeah.
You are such an inspiration, James. I am so proud of you, and I'm so grateful to know you. You know, and you just Likewise. Keep going, and life just, no matter what. I figure everything happens is great writing material.
It is. It is.
You know, so.
Truly, it's like who are some of the best writers? A lot of people who are well over 40. You know why? Because we've been through stuff. We've been through some crazy stuff. You know, that's not to say that a young writer couldn't have the gift or the skill. Sure, absolutely. But let a 20-year-old get to 40 and just like, oh yeah, I done seen some stuff. You know, I done seen some stuff.
That's pretty awesome.
And it not only informs who you are as an individual, but that's really where that voice really comes into play, because it's like, I can measure these words now with wisdom. And we don't come with wisdom at 21 years old. I know I didn't, you know. And,
that's supposed to.
Yeah, you know, I was too busy having fun and yeah, let's party. Like, where's my drink? Yeah, no, but now it's just like, no, I got some wisdom. I got a whole lot of wisdom, and I understand my purpose. I have a plan. I'm willing to pursue it through whatever pressures or problems that may arise, and I'm gonna get it. I'm just not stopping.
You are one of the lucky ones. You really are, because you have that mindset and that drive, and you see it and you do it, and you're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're not crumbling. You are going. You are doing. Yes. And that is so exciting. And that is so inspiring, because you create this incredible energy around you that inspires other people to get up and do stuff themselves, whether it's writing or creating something that makes them feel alive. And by you feeling alive makes me feel alive. And I love that.
Thank you. But see, but my thing is that I don't see myself as anybody special. I'm like, look, guys, I mean, look at me. If I could do it, I mean, you could do it. I mean, come on. I mean, just, you know, guy who's got into the game well after 40, this late in life, you know, doing what he's doing, making the strides he's making. If I can make it, you can make it. You know, it's not something. I always go back to something Will Smith said about greatness, that it's not this wonderful, esoteric, godlike quality that only few of us will ever taste. It's available to everybody. And, you know, and that's the thing that I, you know, in my stuff that I keep trying to tell everybody. It's like the stuff that we're constantly looking for, that we think we will find on the outside, has always been in the same place it's always been, right inside of us. And once we turn there, once we look there and actually find it, there is nothing in the world that can stop you. Nothing.
You know it. That's so awesome. You're so awesome. James, thank you so very much for your time. I feel so grateful to have you. And you have a wonderful day.
It was an honor for me as well. I wish you the greatest of success and a wonderful rest of the year, despite the pandemic. And you yourself are an extraordinary individual, Sophia.
Oh, thank you, James.
And a light that a lot of people still need to see shine in this world. Don't you ever change.
Well, as long as I have you around, never. All right. Mwah. Take care, my dear. Have a beautiful day. Be safe.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye.